Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everyone. My name is Ann Harrison Barnes, and today I am pleased to introduce my new guest, Sean Robbins, who has recently released his debut novel, The Crimson Deathbringer. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Hi.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Anne. Let me start by saying thank you so much for having me on the program. This is my second podcast interview in my life. So for me, it's quite an occasion. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for reading my book, by the way.
Glad to have you. And yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So I'm Canadian. I'm an English teacher. I currently work and live in the UAE, Abu Dhabi. Right now, I'm on my summer vacation in Düsseldorf, Germany. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Kiev, Ukraine.
Wow.
Yeah, I travel a lot. As a university teacher, I used to get the whole summer off, right? But since last year, it's only 6 weeks. Still, it gives me time to travel.
Yeah, you remind me of another friend of mine who I interviewed a while back. She's lived in like 5 or 6 countries too. So what inspired you to become a writer?
Well, that's a really long story. I've always wanted to be a writer since I was a child. I have an aunt who says, when you were like 9 years old, I asked you, when you grow up, what do you want to be? And a lot of people say, a pilot or a doctor. And apparently I said a writer. I don't remember that memory, right? But how exactly it started is, do you know what pure O is? Or purely obsessional OCD?
No.
Do you know what OCD is?
Yes, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay, so yeah, that one. So OCD basically is like, it's a person who has to wash his hands 1,000 times a day, right? There is an obsession that leads to a compulsion that they have to do. Now, what I have is called purely obsessional OCD, which means there is no actual physical compulsion. How it works is an idea comes into my mind and it just doesn't leave. And then I have to think about it like 1,000 times a day. Let's say I hear that I'm going to lose my job at work. I'm going to lose my job, right? Then I start thinking about it. I'm like, Sean, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. If it happens, well, you get another job. It's not the end of the world. So I calm down. But then 30 seconds later, I have to repeat the same process. And then 30 seconds later, and then 30 seconds after that. And once it starts, it ruins my life for a week, for a month, for 6 months. There is no telling for how long, right? So I've been struggling with this pretty much all my life. I tried meditation, I tried therapy, nothing worked. Then one day, somewhere I read, this happens because these people, well, me and people like me, we have an overly active imagination. And if we can channel it into something productive, this particular problem will go away. So at that time, I had a fight with my wife, and my brain has started, this thinking, non-stop thinking. And I told myself, okay, you have tried everything else. Let's try this one. That's when I decided to sit down and write my first novel. And it worked like a charm. Like my brain put the same energy that it used to put into producing thoughts that would torment me into producing story ideas. Like ideas about the stories come to me with such a speed that I have a hard time recording them. And that's how I ended up writing my first novel.
Wow. I was about to say, sounds sort of like me. I don't have that, but I get an idea stuck in my head and it's either hard for me to wrap my head around it or it won't leave me alone until I write it down or do something about it. I wonder if all creative people have
Probably.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
That would make sense.
Yeah. So, did you write any short stories before you started the novel, or was this your first attempt?
No, well, what happens is when I was a child, I used to write funny short stories. And when I was at the school, I used to read them in the classroom and for the teachers and things like that. But like I said, that was a childhood dream, basically. I wrote the first version of my book, The Crimson Deathbringer, years ago. Then I started getting my master's degree. Then I had a career. Then I started teaching. Life happened, and it was one of those dreams that you just forget about when you grow up.
Yeah.
Until the story that I just told you about. So when I restarted writing, it took me 8 months to finish my first novel.
Ah, okay. Wow. So did you self-publish or
No, I have a publisher. Their name is Creativia. It's an independent publisher. They have just changed their name into Next Chapter Publishing.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And
So
if I may say so, the book has been, well, for a first time author, it has been quite successful. I've got more
that's
than
what I read.
100. I'm sorry?
That's what I read when I read your description.
Oh, okay. It's probably there somewhere. Yeah, I already have like 100 Amazon and Goodreads reviews, and most of them are like 90% of them are 5-star. And the book back in May, the book was Amazon #1 hot new release, and then in June it was #1 bestseller, both in US and UK.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you. And especially considering the fact that this is my first published novel, I get emails or on Twitter, people ask me, how the hell did that happen? Do you have any advice? And I'm like, honestly, no. I'm surprised myself, probably just because it was a really good book. But other than that, no, I don't have any advice.
Your publisher must have helped you market it well.
Well, my publisher takes care of the marketing side.
You're lucky
I
because a lot of people who publish, even me, I'm self-published, and even with traditionally published authors, they have to do their own marketing. I'm
True.
surprised.
No. I am active on social media. Twitter, Facebook, but that's basically it. If you want, I'd be happy to introduce you to my publisher.
Mm,
I'm just saying.
I,
Speaking of Twitter, this might make you laugh. Just the other day, somebody left this message on Twitter, all capital. How dare you? What was the exact thing? Rip my heart out with that death scene. I was like, is it a complaint or is it a compliment?
no, I would consider that a compliment for one reason, because honestly, that just means you made them that just means you made your reader care.
True. No, I'm sure it was a compliment. I'm just.
Yeah, so you should consider, because I remember this one guy whose podcast I listened to, and the Author Stories podcast with Hank Gardner. Hank, if you're listening, I'm going to share this. But he said he got an email from one of his readers who said, "I hate you. You made me snot cry." So
Well,
he considered that a compliment.
right. On the same note, a few people told me they cried a few times, and again, I consider that as a compliment. But the thing is, the book was supposed to be a comedy. But yeah, like have you finished chapter 8?
Not yet, but I did read. Well, I did read the part where they think Jim is a racist. Not to spoil it for anybody, you guys have to read this. But what was funny, and I'm going to use your quote, and well, I would use your quote, but I don't want to offend anybody. But if it quacks like a duck, and if it walks like a duck, and it looks like a duck, yeah, you're gonna have to read the rest of that to finish to see what it was said. I'm not gonna spoil that, because if I finish the comment, it would spoil it, and I laughed. That was so funny.
Yeah, actually, the book is a comedy, and yeah, there is a lot of laugh out loud moments. But at the same time, one of my Amazon reviewers said something like this: that even though it's a comedy, from time to time it hits you in your head. The same person said 3 times I had to put down the book and go for a walk because I was like that emotional. Now you'll see a taste by the end of chapter 8.
Yeah, I'll finish it definitely now that you said that, because you just you piqued my curiosity. You have piqued my curiosity, honestly.
Okay.
So now, speaking of the book, what is I think it was STCU or SDCU, something like that.
Security and Counterterrorism Unit.
Ah, okay. See, now that's another suggestion I want to make when you're introducing our acronyms like that in your future novels. I don't know why your editor. I don't know if your editor stated this too, but make sure you clarify your acronyms from the beginning because that can throw
So,
people off too.
of course, I have to add this particular one is mentioned twice in the beginning of the book as Security and Counterterrorism Unit.
Probably, but I missed it somewhere.
I should have made it more prominent then.
Yeah, because
Noted.
I know you probably mentioned it, but me reading
Yeah.
it and trying to take notes, I probably missed that somewhere. Now, what's a PPD? I'm not
I'm
PD.
sorry, what is a what?
A PDD.
Oh, a personal digital device. That one, you're right. I never mentioned it anywhere because mistakenly I assumed everybody knows what a PDD is, right? Totally my mistake.
The iPhone or the iPad or like the
Yeah, well, in the future, the idea is that all these things would sort of morph into one device that everybody has one, right?
yeah.
So I've seen it in a lot of sci-fi movies, and because I'm a sci-fi fan myself, I just assumed everybody knows what a PDD is until 10 other people brought it up that no, what's a PDD? And some people said even when we Google it, we cannot find what it is. So again, you are absolutely right. Noted. I should take care of this in the next edition.
Right. So, and I'm gonna tell you another thing that I've noticed. It kind of with Jim and his car Max. I don't know if
Uh-huh.
you're familiar with if you've ever seen the show from the '80s called Knight Rider.
I know about it. I haven't actually
You
watched.
reminded me of Michael and Kit.
Okay.
Those of you who haven't seen it, go back and see if you can find it on Netflix or find YouTube clips or whatever. But you got it. But yeah, that's what that reminded me of. And it also kind of, I would call this a military space opera too, because you got the Resistance and the Zertags and the Akaki mission and the different alien invasions. But like I said, it kind of reminds me of a military space opera,
Well,
military sci-fi.
yes, you're right. Technically, it's an alien invasion story, which is a subgenre of a space opera, which is a subgenre of science fiction.
Yeah, but you got a lot of military. You got some military stuff in there too.
Yes.
Now, is your pilot Jim, your fighter pilot? Is he? Do you use like aspects of life, or your life, or the people around you to create your characters?
Well, Jim is basically a more macho and braver version of me.
Ah, yeah, he does have a mouth on him. I can tell you that now. He definitely loves to crack. He has wise cracks, and he does have a mouth, and so does
Yeah. Could
Liz.
be annoying.
She's feisty.
Yeah, true. Well, I made both her and have you met Oksana already? Chapter
Yes,
8. Yeah.
yes.
So well, Liz is mostly based on my wife, but then Oksana's backstory is based on my wife too, who is Ukrainian. And she said, I'm just quoting, she said, "You totally thieved my story." Thieved. Because, her English is not like perfect.
Yeah, that's funny. That is just too funny. But yeah, Oksana's a pistol too.
Right?
I think Anastasia, her sister, is a shy one.
Yeah.
Keiko can be a pistol too.
I'm sorry. Oh,
Keiko.
you met Cake already. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, Keiko's a pistol.
So you read the part that she beats, like she goes to a hand-to-hand fight with like 16 men in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Was it there? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But Oksana is violent, and I did not expect Kurt to be Jim's friend because Kurt's an assassin. I
Yes.
didn't expect that. Guys, you guys have got to read this. I'm telling you. Pardon the spoilers, but this has got now that we're talking about it, now I'm curious. Now I want to read more because now I'm curious as to how this is going to end.
Yeah, but the thing about their friendship is originally Kurt wasn't an assassin, right? He was a politician and he
Right.
dreamed of and he dedicated his life to world peace. And then the circumstances pushed him into being an assassin. The first time we met him during that assassination scene in chapter 1,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that you notice about Kurt. He assassinates someone and he immediately regrets it.
Right. He kills Palermo.
Yes.
Oh, y'all, this is full of spoilers. I do apologize, but not enough to where it won't make you won't read it. It's more to make you curious about it. But yeah, so that kind of, I'm like, wow. But if he was forced into it, but they were trying to kill the STCU agents, and yeah, that didn't go over well. So tell me, there is one thing. I know the Ataki alien Tark and Baroque have holograms that take on human form, but what is their true form, or do I have to read to find that out?
Spoiler! Spoiler alert! What you just mentioned was supposed to be a big spoiler, and yes, their true form is like a huge spoiler.
Oh, okay. So we won't discuss that. We won't
No.
discuss that. I will have to read to find out. That means you guys
Yeah,
are.
wait and see.
Okay, I haven't gotten that far, so don't tell me.
Yeah, but the scene that it is revealed that, he is inside the hologram. Did you like the joke about the cows?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How Kurt thought he was Alan thought he was a cow for a week. Oh my gosh.
Right, that.
That was funny, and of course Tark had to bust out laughing. But I think Lily reminds Tark of his daughter.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that you have to remember. His whole species deal is being pranksters. They're all pranksters. That's what they do. That's why at the middle of all of this, with the fate of the universe in the balance, he still spends half of his time and energy pulling pranks on people.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And that mind control unit, I'm like, okay. That was a new thing too.
I'm sorry, which one? Which one? The one that the bad guys use or the one that the good guys use or both of them?
Both. Well, I don't know much about the one the bad guy, the Zertags use, but Michi. The one that
Mickey, yes, the one that the good guys use. Yes. Okay, got it. And I have to say, Anne, if you're not a sci-fi fan, this means that there are a lot of references in the book, like a lot of inside jokes that only, like actually you just mentioned the thing about that old TV show about the car that I haven't watched, funnily enough. But there is a lot of references that sci-fi fans would get. And well, anyways, let me tell you one. You just talked about Mickey. Do you remember when Jim uses the mind control machine for the first time?
Yeah.
He comes out and he says, I know Kung Fu.
Ah.
Do you know which movie that's a reference to?
Kung Fu Fighting?
No, Matrix. Have you watched Matrix?
Yeah, I haven't watched that movie.
Oh, you should watch Matrix. That movie is amazing.
Now, a lot of the now some of the parts of the book remind me of Star Trek, because I've read.
Jim is a Trekker. Well, I just said he's a kind of a version of me, right? I'm a big time Star Trek fan. So Jim himself is a Trekker, and yes, there is a bunch of references to Star Trek.
Right.
You know which one I like?
Deep Space Nine?
No, I mean which reference?
No.
I tell you which one. The first time that he uses that mind control machine, and you remember that machine teaches him things that he didn't know already, like how to fly a space fighter, right?
Yeah.
Then 2 or 3 paragraphs later, Kurt suddenly tells him, what the hell do you think you're doing? And Jim says, I let go of his neck and I said, nothing. I just wanted to see if Mickey has taught me how to do a Vulcan nerve pinch.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that Mr. Spock used to do by grabbing your...
Spock. Yep. I figured that one. Yeah, I kind of got that one because, like
Okay.
I said, I've watched Star Trek, the Star Trek shows, but I've read some of the original Star Trek books and a few
Wow.
of the Next Generation ones, but I've
Mm-hmm.
also read a one Deep Space Nine book.
Okay.
I've read some Star Wars stuff too. So
So
yeah.
that's a space opera for you. You're very familiar with the space opera already.
Yeah, there are certain things. Like I said, there are certain things I like. But I just have to get back into it because I'm a big mystery fan and that kind of thing. So yeah. Excuse me. So are you working on anything on any new projects?
Yes, I've just started writing the sequel after weeks of planning. Like I thought about the plot a lot. I talked to my friends. So I've just started writing the sequel.
That reminds me. That's another thing I was going to ask you about your writing process. Are you a pantser or are you a heavy outliner?
Well, no. What happens is, as I just mentioned, the ideas just come to me, right? Basically, I
Mhm.
walk around with my phone, recording the things that come to. Like I'm swimming. I'm a swimmer, by the way. I have to get out of the swimming pool 20 times just to record my own ideas. When they keep coming to me, then I sit down and shape them into the full story, right? So no, I don't plan a lot. The ideas just come to me, and then I just write them down, and then they
So
change a lot
yeah.
during the actual writing and then during the rewrites.
Oh yeah, the mine do too. I do a little bit of planning
Right?
to kind of get the bare bones, and then I work from the bare bones. That's the way I do it. Everybody's different.
Hmm. So I'm writing the sequel now. It's supposed to be a trilogy, and part three is gonna be epic. Like I wrote a book blurb for the sequel, and at the end of the book blurb says, "You guys thought the stakes were high in the Crimson Deathbringer, with Earth being conquered and everything else that you're gonna read later." Then I
Hmm.
said, "You ain't seen nothing yet."
Oh dear. And I know you were recommended to you reached out to me on recommendation of Mary L. Schmidt, right?
Yes. Yes, she
Ah,
read my book and then she said she actually wrote a very nice review for me. She's such a nice person. And
she
then
is.
she said I should get in touch with you.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's cool. So anybody I'm trying to think. So where can people find you online if they want to connect with you?
My Twitter handle is at Sean Robbins 300.
Right. You followed me on Twitter first before you went
Yes,
contacted me through
actually,
that.
I'm following you on Twitter too. So
Yeah.
that's easy to remember because Sean Robbins is my name and 300 like the movie.
Ah, okay.
And then I've got my own website. Again, I think Sean Robbins. If people Google Sean Robbins 300 or Sean Robbins the Crimson Deathbringer, they can find my webpage. They can find my Facebook and Twitter.
Send me your website link because you gave me you gave me your Facebook and Twitter, but do
Huh.
send me your website too because I
Oh, sorry
no,
about that.
no,
Absolutely, I'm gonna email it to you.
okay, that's fine. That would be great because then I can
Sure.
just add it to the blog post. Um, so um, okay, so there's a couple questions that I'm gonna take out of this because you said you weren't comfortable with them. So anyway, what was your favorite Bible verse?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Okay, what was your favorite Bible verse?
Oh, this one, and that's something that I repeat to myself pretty much every day. It says, "Ask, and it shall be given; seek, and you shall find; knock, and it shall be opened."
Right, open unto you, right. And Matthew,
Yeah, unto you. I know, and the first line also has a "you" at the end. But
yeah.
when I say it to myself, I just say it the way that I just told you. I don't repeat "you" 3 times.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to think. I know it's in Matthew.
Yes, it is.
I don't remember what the verse is right now, but
Ooh.
yeah, I'd have to look it up. but it's either in 6. No, it's not in 5. I think it's in either 6 or 7. I have to look. It's part of the Sermon on the Mount. I do know that. So anyway, any final thoughts before I close this out in prayer?
No, it was a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation. You made me laugh at least 3 times. So thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so I'm gonna actually,
the prayer.
Yeah, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Father. Thank you for this wonderful interview, and thank you for introducing me to Sean through another one of my guests, Father. I pray that you protect the listeners, give them, hopefully, Lord, I pray that this episode has been of value to the listeners and they've gotten something useful and helpful out of the conversation. And Father, I pray that you will continue to protect Sean and me in our writing endeavors. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right, so we challenge you today to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share it with the world. Share your creation with the world. For when you've touched one life, you've touched 1,000. Thanks so much for joining us on Inspirational Journeys, and have a blessed day.